Hello everybody, this is Bill Sparks from Gilead Ministries, and this is another episode of Mini Views, time when we take time to talk to one of our clients, one of our volunteers, or one of our staff members. And so today we're talking to Mr. Don Wickline, and Don has had a journey with cancer, and we're going to talk a little about that and some of the things that he and his wife Joy experienced. So Don, tell us about the time that Joy was diagnosed, and tell me a little bit about what you guys felt at that time.
Well, we retired from doing mission work in Kentucky in August and came home, and she went for a routine mammogram, and they found a mass, and that occurred in September. So immediately after that, and we looked at that actually as a grace from God, because I was able to be with her through all of the treatments. So that worked really well. Was diagnosed with a pretty aggressive form of cancer, which required, and it was metastatic, so it did require that she have the chemo as well as radiation treatment. Went through several weeks of that. The toughest part through that whole time frame is from you have a lump to is it cancer, and the waiting for that. And that's where friends from church and guys like you guys can come in and be some consolation. That's the toughest time. And even though hers was diagnosed as a very aggressive type, it was still a relief to get that diagnosis so that we knew what the path would be. So several months of that, Joy had also included surgery, and that was done here in Marion by Dr. Rex, fantastic guy, and he did the surgery, and there were several complications, including hospital stays and different things there. Joy had a really tough time going through that, but I would think that most folks probably didn't realize that. She wasn't one to complain. The emotions around it are huge. All of a sudden, a person who, this is going to get emotional. Who was a rock in our family, all of a sudden was the one who was sick. So went through that process, and again, like I said, lots of support. Marion General Hospital did a fantastic job. I can't speak highly enough of the cancer center here in Marion. The nurses there, the doctors there, they're amazing. So Joy went through that over about a year and a half as we went through the whole process, got everything all done, and received the all clear diagnosis. The treatments were great, are successful, and so then we went through that, and in April of last year, she received the all clear from the doctor. They removed her port, and she had one more doctor's visit on May 2nd, and at that one she was declared completely cancer-free and ready to go. And then had a sudden heart attack that night and passed away that evening. So did have some side effects from the treatments, neuropathy in her feet and things like that. None of them were debilitating. So I guess that's kind of it in a nutshell. Mm-hmm. And then the impact on the family, Joy did everything she could to make that as minimal as possible during her treatments. If you knew Joy, you would know that without me telling you. That she was very strong. I never saw her faith waver. I'm sure she had some moments of doubt, but I never saw it waver. And so I guess that's it, basically in a nutshell.
Yeah. So obviously you're coming this time, you think things are moving in the right direction, and then immediately upon this day you have to face this unfortunate reality that God graduated her to heaven. So what's going through your mind that day and the next day?
I guess two things that a person who's just experienced that does not want to hear. The first one is, are you okay? Because you're not. And that just triggers you to lie to people and tell them, yeah, I'm all right. Well, you're not. And I can't imagine anybody being okay. The next one is people who say, that's God's will. I'm not a theologian, but I don't believe God does those things to us. I believe the world does that to us. Stuff happens. And so I would have to believe that God wanted her to go through that, and I don't. So she passed away in her sleep. It was immediate. There was some trauma involved, but not much. But then it was, now what we do? We have custody of our 4 grandchildren, or did have it. 3 of them have graduated from high school now, so we just have the one at home. But now we're dealing with how, for them, even more difficult than for me, because they didn't just lose their grandmother, they lost the person who was really their mom. And so it's a huge loss. And you can probably sense it's not stopped her.
Yeah. And that's actually my next question is, it's obvious there's a lot of stuff that Joy was responsible for, was the like you say, the rock, so many things. I mean, my times of interacting with her through the United Methodist Church and some of the other different things, just a real person of faith, a real strength, real encouragement. So then this is now in your life gone, and you said, like, you know, it's still something. So talk to me and others who are going through this loss period. What kind of things did you experience, and what kind of things would you say to encourage them?
Well, the things you experience is just immediately, initially, it's just shock. And that folks oftentimes will mean well, and oftentimes will just say silly things. And they don't mean to, so my advice would be, try not to take that at face value. Understand that folks care, and they're trying to help you. Doesn't always feel that way. Honestly, it doesn't. But folks mean well most of the time. I can't imagine how someone can go through that without a church family. I don't know how you would do that. We have a small group at our church that we're part of, Joy and I are part of, and very close friends with them, and more than friends, family. And so lean on those folks. And it's okay to not be okay. I think I read that in a book somewhere, because you're not okay, and don't have to hide that. And so, because the inclination, especially us guys, we want to be the tough guy and say, I can power through this. Well, no, you can't. And if you try to, it's just going to make it. You're just delaying the inevitable. You have to deal with it. Obviously, I haven't completely yet. I don't know that there's a timetable. And you can read all kinds of books that tell you all kinds of dumb stuff. I think that your close friends, your church family, your faith is what's important. They are better off. We're not. And I think the wavering faith, Joy would have been disappointed in me if I let that happen.
So through the process of her journey with cancer, through your own process of grief, we've had an opportunity to text back and forth, different things going on. What has been encouraging from Gilead that you've received, or things that you've gotten or interacted with?
Regular contacts through texts, and I'd say almost immediately you would text me almost daily for quite a while. I think it was daily for quite a while. It helps to know somebody else cares. It helps a lot. The cards, regularly got cards, phone calls. It is helpful, to have something that keeps you from hiding under a rock. Because that is the inclination, at least it was for me. That it's, again, back to that, it's okay to not be okay. And to know folks cares is really helpful. So that's, Gilead was one of those folks, sources, and then my church and my small group would be the other ones. So, but pretty much always for us, it was a Christian-based response that was most helpful.
It's been another episode of Many Views, and want to thank you for taking time to tune in and to learn more about those that we serve and those that serve alongside of us. And God bless.